Welcome everyone to another video in our series that explores sample records management configurations in M-Files using AutoRecords. As with all of our samples, the details of this configuration are available in the online documentation for AutoRecords. Working samples using these configurations are also available in the Sample Vault, which you can download from TeamIM and begin experimenting with today. All of our sample videos and documentation assume you're familiar with records management concepts, the M-Files user interface, and that you have basic understanding of AutoRecords. In this session, we're going to see how to set up a configuration where we delete proposal documents at different times based on whether they're approved or rejected. We'll be setting up proposals to be deleted 10 years after they're approved or 7 years after they're rejected. We'll walk through all of the steps in this configuration as if there are no existing configurations on the system. We'll start by creating a new policy object in M-Files. First, we need to give the policy a name. Policy name should be consistent, so when we're reviewing all of the policies on the system, the list is fairly well organized. It's worth considering whether we want the policy name to include the description of retention or just the documents and objects that are included. Generally, we recommend the policy name reflects the types of documents contained in the policy, since including the retention can get a bit unwieldy. Using this example, we may want the name of the policy to be Proposals, since it will handle both approved and rejected proposals. The next thing we'll do is select the document class or classes that belong to this policy. In this case, it's just the proposal document class. With the classes selected, we can begin to set up the retention category. The retention category gets assigned to all documents that qualify for the policy and schedules an event or events to perform retention actions against those documents. In this case, there will be 2 events that could be scheduled for a proposal depending on whether it's approved or rejected. Taking a closer look at the retention category, we have a few bits of information to provide. Starting at the top, the ID is a number that you assign to uniquely identify the retention category. Many records management standards require that each retention category have a unique numeric ID. As you build out your file plan, you may want to use this ID to group retention categories. While in most cases, retention categories are generally not specific to a certain type of document and can be used by multiple types of documents, in this case, we're setting up retention that is intended only for proposals, since this retention category deletes based on the status of proposals. The retention category label is a free-form text field. As a best practice, this field should describe the events that will be scheduled by this retention category. Since we have multiple events that can be scheduled by this retention category, the name is set up to indicate both events that will be scheduled. Once the label has been set, the retention category name is automatically set as a combination of ID and label. The only other property we need to set up for this example are the event templates that will be used to schedule events for the proposal documents. That leads us to the next step of setting up the event templates. For this example, we set up an event group template. Event group templates dictate what retention actions will be performed and when. Event group templates are used to schedule events for groups of like documents. In this case, proposal documents will be deleted 10 years after the proposal is approved. Event group templates use a pattern of after some triggering criteria is met, wait some period of time, and then perform some action. And the best practice for naming event group templates is to reflect some combination of after some triggering criteria, wait some period of time, and then perform some action. So let's look at how to set it up in this case. In this case, we'll set up the name to delete 10 years after proposal is approved. Next, we need to specify the triggering criteria that will be used to control when events should be scheduled. For this event group, we want to start retention once the proposal is approved. So we'll create a trigger that will evaluate to true when the proposal status is set to true. This trigger is a property trigger. A property trigger is used to evaluate the value of a property, and when the condition is met, the trigger evaluates to true. The trigger name will automatically be created once we've filled in the remaining values. The trigger property we'll be using is proposal status. The comparator will be equal to, and the value will be approved. Importantly, since proposal status is a select list property, behind the scenes M-Files associates an ID with each possible value in the list. To ensure we're comparing to the proper value, we must add the proposal status property to the trigger and set the value to approved. The approved in the trigger value field is not used for comparison. It is, however, used to automatically generate the name of the trigger. With the triggering criteria set, we need to specify how long to wait after the trigger is true before performing the action. We specify a time period which consists of a period of time, which we will set to years, and then set 10 as the duration. And with that, our period is set up. Finally, we select the action we want to perform. Since we're going to delete the file, we will use a direct action which is performed directly against the file and does not invoke mFile's workflow to do additional retention processing. The direct action we will choose is delete and destroy file. AutoRecords supports a soft delete as well, but we will actually want to destroy the file. One final thing to point out is that it's very likely the proposal has a workflow which sets workflow states. While it's tempting to use workflow states to drive retention, it is not recommended. Document workflows are tailored to a particular business process, which is almost always relatively short in duration. Retention, on the other hand, is often measured in years. Using proposals as an example, it's likely that the proposal workflow will be changed multiple times over the course of 10 years by different people, some of whom will likely have very little knowledge of retention policies. Relying on workflow states for retention will likely create future risks. In this case, we've added a property for proposal status, which we use to drive retention and help insulate our retention policy from being inadvertently affected as workflow changes are made in the future. Once the 10-year event group template is set up, we set up another event group template to delete rejected proposals after 7 years in the exact same way. In this case, our trigger will be that the proposal status is equal to rejected, and the period will be 7 years. With that, our configuration is complete. We created the 3 main configurations. Our policy selects the proposal documents and assigns a retention category to those documents. Our retention category schedules one of 2 events for the proposal based on the status. The event group templates are set up so that one will be used when the status is rejected and the other is used when the status is approved. Importantly, if the status changes from rejected to approved, the retention will respond to that change automatically. The 2 property triggers are used to allow AutoRecords to respond to status changes on the proposal and schedule retention appropriately. We also created 2 retention periods so we can keep rejected proposals 7 years and approved proposals 10 years. These retention periods will also likely be used by other event group templates in the future. As we move forward defining our file plan, the reuse of triggers, time periods, event group templates, and retention categories will make configuring our file plan quick and easy. Once AutoRecords runs, mFiles will automatically create all the associations between the policy, the retention category, the event group templates, and ultimately the associated documents. It will also schedule all the events that are needed to perform retention for the documents, including one event for documents that are untriggered and cannot be scheduled yet. So in this case, any proposals that have not been either rejected or accepted and are being drafted or under review will be associated to an event that is not yet scheduled. There may be hundreds of proposals that are not yet scheduled, but once they are approved or rejected, they will be moved from the unscheduled event to an event with a specific date. Looking at the documents, when AutoRecords executes this retention in mFiles, any proposals will automatically have the policy, retention category, and scheduled events added to their metadata. You can see in this case the rejected proposal has an event scheduled to delete 7 years after it was rejected. The event to delete 10 years after approved is linked to this policy, but it's untriggered, which means that it has not been scheduled since the proposal status has not been set to approved. If the proposal status were changed, the events would reschedule as necessary. If we expand the events associated to the retention category, we can see the event date, which is when the actions associated to the event will be performed. In this case, April 4th of 2031, or 7 years after the proposal was rejected. As we wrap up this video, we want to encourage you to check out our other sample configuration videos to learn how the power and flexibility of records management in mFiles can help your organization achieve its compliance and records management goals. For more information about records management in mFiles with AutoRecords, please contact mFiles or Team IM. Thank you for watching.